Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here, and today I want to do another video talking about the Slormancer. And specifically, this video is going to be for people who just finished up the main bulk of the campaign and what to do kind of once you're done with that part and how to move forward. And really the next thing we're working on here is the Adam Nostrus Trials. These are basically a series of goals and things for you to do set forward by Adam Nostrus to give you some different rewards, ancestral stones, and we're going to go over kind of like what these are, how to do them, and just kind of like how to get more power and kind of gear up, kind of just to start to beat some of the harder stuff here later in the game. Some general tips as well. This is not going to be like a build guide video for my particular build. A lot of people want to see it, that particular video. Let me know in the comments down below. But we're going to be going over this stuff here. So first off, on part 1 here, Realm of Adriert, we have a couple of different things we need to do. The very first one is reach a total of 50 influence, which I think a lot of people kind of get confused about, but this is pretty much done just from doing the battlefield stuff. And this is something that'll just kind of happen naturally. And even though it's on the checklist here, it's not something that you overly need to worry about. Next up, we have defeat 15 battlefield bosses. And the battlefield bosses are pretty easy to find. However, it's also very easy to miss these. So if we go over here to the expeditions by talking to this guy here, Almlaros, we can go and see the battlefield here. It's pretty much just like a, random levels basically, where there's a whole bunch of breaches for you to go and close. And you can go and set the difficulty level from like -0 all the way up to 10. It has different multipliers for like what the enemies will have, what we'll have in terms of experience, magic find, all that rewards. Note that like as you get higher in experience gain here, this is going to be higher than the XP ultimatum if you're using that. So you want to not use that ultimatum if you are. But then lastly, this section here messes with people the most. This is the problem section right here. And number 3 is choose your adventure. And so if the first option is battlefield journey, random and ever-changing environments, boss events. But if you click the next thing here, careful examination, chosen fixed environment, no bosses. Well, so many people don't read this and they just go and they pick their environment and they wonder why they're not finding the bosses. Well, it's because of this. You need to just go and select battlefield journey, get random environments, and about every like 4 to 5 different like floors, you're going to get a boss fight. And you just kind of keep going infinitely until you die or until you decide to leave because you're like full on loot or stuff like that. Another thing to note is that you can leave each floor with 5 or less breaches left. Like once you've kind of cleared enough, if you just go to any spot where a breach was, there'll be an interaction to open a portal. You'll be able to either leave or to go to the next floor right away. And so if you're like very far away from the other breaches that you need to clear on the map, this is the potential you could do. Or if you see like, oh, there's only a negative breach that's available, that's something that you kind of like maybe want to skip if you think you're going to have a boss soon. But here's, let me show you like a quick little run through of some breach. We are in the prison, and so this red one here means that it's always going to be a negative, basically every single time here. And so negatives, kind of can be a scary thing. You have Cataclysm here. Enemies gain a shield equal to 100% of their maximum life. And so this have like a pretty darn big shield here, which just makes them quite a bit more tanky. You can see that this has like kind of a 3 on it, which means this is going to be a longer one that has 3 waves. And so enemies are just going to kind of keep coming until they die and kind of run away. We can see there's just one line here. So one line means that it is only 1 wave. And these are really the ones you're looking for the most. These ones are the best. Just kind of like can blow everything up. This 2-liner here means 2 lines. And that big loot explosion was because of the Cataclysm running off. It gives you a nice loot explosion. Even though it does make the difficulty a little bit higher, it does give you quite a bit of reward at the end. So if you can handle it, that's great. Lastly, we have these chaos breaches here, which are the longest ones that you can get, where you're basically just going to be killing enemies for a while here until the circle spreads out in the center. And this is really good for XP. But it can take a while. So if you're really looking to try to get done quickly, you might consider skipping those. Let me see here, we've gone through 11 out of our breaches here. So we have 3. Oh, that was very fast. Okay, and this is the very last one here. So the golden one gives you a temporary buff. So right now we have the Exaltation of Lightning. So Electric Overcharge is automatically equipped at max rank and cost is reduced to 0. And so this is, I believe, this down here. So your primary and secondary skills now imbued with lightning, and it does, you know, a whole bunch of damage here, up to 18,000 elemental damage. And so this is going to be active. Pretty much all of the yellow ones are really nice. It's going to give you quite a bit of power and kind of just lasting. But they are on a limited time, obviously. And so you kind of like need to clear quickly as you go. And now that we're at 18 floors out of 20, I can just hover over here, click a portal, and then I can either go to the next floor or head home. Easily we'll just go head home. And here at the end, we'll see the whole score of all of the stuff. You'll notice at the bottom my influence rank, and this will go up a little bit based on the number of enemies I killed, the number of breaches I killed, number of elites, all that kind of stuff. And so the influence rank will just slowly kind of go up over time. And that's why I don't think you need to focus too much on like worrying about your influence rank, because the influence rank will just kind of go up. Now, next up, we can talk about the level 50 and get a Slorm Reaper to 50. This is really just kind of playing the game. I know that might sound a little crazy, but playing the game, you're just going to end up getting a lot of XP and a lot of levels. And kind of like, especially as you get deeper into the content here, you're going to be getting a huge XP benefit. So like here at level 8, you're getting that. It's probably like maybe level 3 or level 4. Like 17% experience, or maybe like 27%. This is a good opportunity to be using the ultimatum that gives you more XP. 65%. This like overrides whatever the XP you would get. But like the XP will just come. Now, if you happen to be more lucky than me, and you have the weapon that comes immediately after the Adam Nostrus weapon, the bow or the sword or the staff of the trainee, I'd highly recommend using this. It gives you increased experience gain, so don't use the XP ultimatum with this. And then whenever you deal damage to an enemy, you have a 100% chance, which I think equal to the level that you are, to deal additional damage, which is equal to your current level is the chance, and the additional damage is equal to twice your total experience gain. Slight spoiler, when you go and unlock this all the way to Primordial, you're also going to get an additional experience gain multiplier. And so my experience gain will just go through the roof. Right now we're at 37%. If I put the bow on, we're at 1,193%, which is just kind of nuts. And we get Reaper damage as well, which is equal to 10 times the combined level of all of my characters. And so this is like the best way to level up for sure. If you're trying to level up your character, this is just going to be zooming for sure. Definitely highly recommend that. I personally use the Adam Nostrus Perfect Bow until I got to level 50. And then I think I switched over to the Big Fury Primordial Bow. But I did mess around with a lot of different stuff. As you can see, we've unlocked pretty much every single bow that you can drop off of a breach now. Another shout out here is the most powerful bow, which does sound pretty darn funny. But this does have some of the highest base damage for a bow, or for really any weapons, most powerful sword, most powerful staff, whatever it is. This is a pretty solid all-round type of thing if you're looking for something. Now, the next part here, we're going to talk about reinforcing an item, upgrading an ultimatum to level 3, and then upgrading a Reaper rune to number 3. We're actually going to go through this list backwards. So, the Reaper runes that you get here, with Corey Ironbender, you pretty much have these different little kind of activation, effect, and enhancement runes. So when something happens, this happens, and then when that thing happens, something else happens. So for example, when you've killed X number of enemies, you trigger your effect rune, which gives me like maybe Reaper damage multiplier, or gives me more projectiles, or you gain Ultima momentum, giving you a multiplier for your Ultimatum, or the one I'm using right now, which gives me a barrier basically that protects me for percentage of my shield up to 31,000 HP shield right now, which I think is pretty good. And then we have like, effect runes. Like whenever I trigger my effect rune, there's a chance to trigger it again every second for the next 10 seconds. And the chance to trigger is relative to the constraint of your effect rune. And so like my effect rune here has constraints to 70%. And so, yeah, like this is like basically one of your power things you can get. I personally don't think that leveling these up early is really all that super duper important. Like you can definitely level them up, but they do become very expensive very quickly. You can see here it's going to cost me 1540 Reaper Spirits to go up the next tier. One thing to note is that whatever type of weapon you're using determines what type of Reaper Spirits you get the most of. So since I'm using an Astorius long bow, I will get a ton of Astorius kind of Reaper Souls as well, which is pretty good because you're also going to be using these to level up your Slorm Reaper affinities. Slorm Reaper affinities are basically like bonus levels for every single weapon of that family. And really you have to think about that all of the weapons in the game are crafted by somebody. Some person in the game, hammered it out to actually make this thing. And what this is doing is basically like increasing your affinity with them and their works. You're kind of like becoming a fan of theirs, if you would. And so we can see here that currently my Astorius affinity we're at level 99 here. We have 54 from upgrades. Then we have 45 from equipment. And if I level this up by spending 625 more Spirit of Astorius, pops me up to 100%, level 100, which is not the cap yet. We're only about, we have 50 more levels to go here from both gear and from upgrades. And that's going to just multiply my Reaper damage, multiply the effect multiplier, makes those Reapers easier to level, and also reduces the level that they need to be in order to go primordial, which is kind of like their Super Saiyan secret mode. And so, yeah, this is a very important thing to do. Highly recommend that you invest in doing this. And if you end up deciding to go and do the Fate Crusher here, Bow of the Seven, this just seems like a very, very end game bow that scales on having pretty much all of the different Reaper Spirits leveled up. There is a legendary pair of gloves that make it so that all of the affinity bonuses on your gear counts as if it's for all of them, I believe. And so this really can make this bow super duper fly, which is something probably like maybe an end game build type of thing we can set up for that. You can also go and like get on different characters. So I could go on the the knight or something and craft Reapers that she already has. So I could probably like click on this and drag it in over there, but it doesn't work because I'm not on them right now, which is how it is. Now, pretty much like once you level up one of these runes to 3, especially if you have one that you really like, you can kind of like move on and kind of like put most of your points into the affinities, I think. But next, let's talk about the ultimatums. So Olerin over here, the Archmage of Argent, whatever, has a couple different menus. The first one here with Elder Slorm Find, we have Elder Slorm Max Capacity, which I think leveling up a little bit does help a whole ton. And then eventually, not right now, you're going to go grind the temple until you can level up the pure stat max score all the way to the max. I'm probably going to grind out the pure stat chance as well all the way to the max. But that's something for later. But he also gives you the ability to get these ultimatums, which unlock as you go through the temple. Like every 10 levels, you get another ultimatum. So you get like experience, movement speed, mana regen, gold is find, melee recast, area damage reduction, fork chance, inner fire damage, critical strike damage, damage to elites, attack speed, area size, additional projectile, critical strike chance, and ancestral strike chance. Now you don't have to use any of these if you don't want to. However, if you are like, for example, like you don't have a lot of XP, I think that the Ultimatum of Infinite Wisdom is pretty good to get early on. Also, if you don't like want to have movement speed here, getting the second one here for undisputed speed just give you quite a bit of movement speed. These go up to level 15, so you can kind of do the math there. My movement speed is a lot higher than this thing can give me right now, so I really wouldn't want to use this. But if you don't have movement speed on like a lot of your gear, that can be pretty nice to have as well. Once again, reminder, the ultimatums basically will like set the stat to whatever it says, and you can't like change it with any other modifier, including higher wrath levels in the battlefield. And so if you have 65% XP, but the battlefield says it should be like 10 trillion, it's 65%. So really be careful with this, because if you're investing into like, I don't know, additional projectiles or crit chance or attack speed, and you have the ultimatum on for it, it's basically disregarding all of your other stats and saying, no, your additional projectiles are 1.16 right now. Nothing else matters. So really important to do this, but leveling these up is pretty important and is a good use of your pure Slorm here, especially if you're using the XP one. I just pounded my pure Slorm in here as well. But another thing you really want to spend your pure Slorm on is the Elder Bow of the Slorm Temple. This thing costs 3,000 pure Slorm, and it is worth every little pure Slorm penny that you put into it. And the reason this is so good is because non-elite enemies have a 2% chance to drop Elder Slorm on dying. This only appears to work in the battlefield. However, this does give you a good way to farm up Slorm. Normally, the only way you're going to get Elder Slorm is from killing elites, which is just slow and painful. But with this bow, it is super darn fast and super easy to do. And once this thing goes up to Primordial, you get a little bit of inner fire damage as well, which is kind of okay. But you also get a bonus effect to your ultimatum. So it can give you like more movement speed or more XP. It also gives you just like more additional damage and stuff like that. Which is, all of this stuff is a pretty nice bow to have. But really, it's that like huge Elder Slorm find at the top and the 2% chance to drop that is the most important part, because it's just going to make getting your Elder Slorm bar filled up super duper fast. Right now I have a Elder Slorm bar of 21,000. This could take like hours of killing normal elites, because you're getting like 32 a pop from these. But with this bow, it's making it so tons more enemies are dropping them, and we're getting more than just like 32 a pop, which is pretty important to do. And so yeah, level up your ultimatums, give yourself a little bit more power, get yourself this bow so it's a little bit easier to farm to get back into the temple. It's easier to get back into the forge as well. And yeah, there we're gonna go. Now the last thing we're going to talk about here for the goals are to upgrade and enhance your gear to level 6. So enhancing over here the Slormatologist's Delight pretty much makes it so the stats of the items you have go up. And so for example here, if we go and we put this in here, we can kind of see the changes in red, what's going to happen. The raw damage is going to go up by a little %. We're going to get more armor, totem increase effect, yada, yada, yada. All of the stuff that you kind of see there. And one of the things that's kind of annoying to me at first is that you kind of have to wait until things have this little cross, because it means that their potential has built up. This is increased simply by wearing the item and just like fighting and killing enemies with it. And the higher the potential you get, the easier it becomes to reinforce. However, you don't have to wait for a thing to get fully potentialized or even potentialized at all. Instead, what you can do is you can just spend more money on it. So for example here, level 77 plus 0, let's say I just crafted this item up to replace my current thing. If I go to the crafting materials tab here, we go and put the correct Slormite in, it's going to highlight it for me and I see 0%. But as I go up in the how high the Slormite is, you'll notice that the critical and double reinforcements will go up, but also the success chance. And so if I go 4 up from the one I'm supposed to be using, it will just guarantee go, which is pretty nice, with a 50% chance to have potential after the fact. So we go from no potential to 15%, and a 24% chance to also go up 2 levels as opposed to just 1, which is pretty huge. So we just click this and we can see we got critical reinforcement. So now it actually has a little bit of potential. So the potential is equal to the success chance here. So if we go forward like 3 more here, instead of being 75%, it's 90%. and we succeed once again. And so we just leveled it up basically for pretty cheap. And I really wouldn't worry too much about like leveling this stuff because you get a lot of these materials, and you can eventually like go and craft these forward and like push them forward to be higher tiers. Not really a big deal. Probably run out of gold before you run up these materials by a long shot here. But leveling these up to 3 is pretty important. I push like most of my stuff to like 5 or 6 or even higher than that, especially if I'm going to be keeping it for a long time. Like for example, I've had this belt here for a while and it's level 6. But really just going to end up trying to push our end game gear as high as possible. I believe it goes all the way up to 15. And that should pretty much set you for the first part of the trials here. We're going to reinforce an item to 6, not 3, like I was saying for some reason. We're going to get our Ultimatum to 3 and our Reaper Rune to 3. We're going to level up just from like playing the game, maybe using the XP weapon if you can. You go through and you just do battlefields successfully and defeat bosses, and make sure that you are setting it to being a battlefield journey that has bosses as opposed to careful examination. And you're just going to be super duper easy. Now the second section here gets quite a bit more difficult in some regards. So the Temple Keeper at level floor 50, I think it's a pushover, really easy. You're going to feel very confident after killing this guy. And so the Siege Leader and Adam Nostrus here, you're probably going to be like, okay, I can handle this too. It's not that big of a deal. And really the 100 waves is not really all that hard. It's kind of like more of a test at first of like how long you can kind of stay focused. This might take you like over an hour if you don't have a really good clear speed build. 100 waves just kind of takes a while, but then Adam Nostrus is probably going to put you in your place. He is a very difficult boss, and he just does a lot of damage. He hits very hard. He has a ton of HP, and you unlock him pretty early. And so when you step in there, you're gonna get your butt handed to you. But really, if you kind of like follow a lot of the steps that we talked about before, like leveling up your gear and just leveling up in general is going to help you out a bunch. You don't really get a lot from like attribute score per se here in this game. There's not like a passive tree that you're working through. However, you do get quite a bit here just from having higher level gear. So we kind of like look at this ring that I used to wear here. We can kind of see that some of the stats are pretty much in the same range. I'm gonna hold shift here to show the ranges. We can see that like armor, for example, armor is maybe a bad example here. Oh, maybe the 2 rings we're wearing right now. So on the far left, we can see that says 758 raw damage top end, whereas the ring in the middle, which is 10 levels higher, is 939. If you don't know already, magic and rare stats are always the same. And so, yeah, this like goes up by quite a bit just from 10 levels. And the stats that are pretty much like on the magic and rare are some of the most important stats because these are like kind of the ones that are going to be the highest. Generally, when you're looking at a legendary or an epic piece of gear, you don't really care too much what's in the epic stats. You want something that's good, but realistically, you would want something that you can't normally get here. So although this ring had raw damage, I could have had raw damage as one of my magic stats and would have been higher. Like this could go up to 495 raw damage as opposed to the piddly 305 down there in the epic stat. And so in epic stats, generally you're looking for stuff that is on the list over here that benefits you, but is not normally available on that piece of gear on the rare or the magic stats. And this can make it so that, a rare piece of gear is actually pretty good because it has, 2 of the stats that you want with the magic and the rare. It's pretty easy to replace. You get a lot of the materials for this. And so really like you should try to be replacing your gear like every 10 or 15 levels, unless you have some like absolutely filthy like epic stats on them. So like these gloves, for example, have armor pen and damage to elites, which I don't believe are things that you can normally find on a glove in the magic stats here or the rare stats. So you can't get armor pen, you can't get damage to elites. And so these gloves are going to be pretty hard to replace here now, even at level 100. We're going to have to get lucky or probably just, brute force this quite a bit to get something like that. But the magic and rare stats are quite a bit easier to craft. So just kind of keep upgrading your gear, especially as you level up. As you level, the item level goes up. and you just get better gear. You can look for things that have these pure stats, the pure stat line that can even go up to a perfect score, which is, you know, just really powerful gear. You know, that's just a good thing to find. And you kind of can tell how good the score is based on how many exclamation points. This has 1 exclamation point, so it's pretty okay. 2 is quite a bit better. And then if you go and get a perfect one, this probably would have gone all the way up to 1823 elemental res. I'm not 100% positive of how the perfect score stuff works yet, but yeah, that is, you know, pretty darn powerful. And yeah, just continue to invest in your gear. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. But even like on some of my piece of gear that I'm wearing right now, I didn't really go and invest super duper deep into like getting my weapon affinity or my skill mastery stuff. And I really wish that I'd kind of done this a little bit earlier, especially like you see this belt, for example, here. I don't have like a Reaper stat. I don't have the mastery stat. I don't have attributes, and I have a ton of these materials. I could have just like smacked these on here. We added some bravery. We could have done this, got a mastery stat on here. Humble mastery, hey, is something I'm actually using. And we could add a Reaper stat. I'm not using a Bay Garth weapon, but like we could potentially roll this pretty easily. It's cheaper always to reforge something than it is to add it. So I could re-roll this over to being a Astorius like that, and then just reforge the score. And typically I go like 4 or more, but you know, that's streamer RNG there for you. We got a 5 right away. And yeah, like this would have been a way better for us. I kind of do find that rolling for the mastery score is a little bit harder, or the mastery stat, because there's just quite a few different things. But just to remind you that whenever you're reforging for something, as long as you stay on that window, you can't roll the same thing twice. So if I click this button here, it's not going to be tumble a second time, and it is void arrow, and I don't really want to roll off of that. So I guess we're just going to get this old ring here. Let's go. And we just basically let's add Reaper stat here again. And if I go and I reforge this from Astorius, of course it hits Astorius. We'll see that like there's an orange line there now. And what that means is this was previously rolled in this rolling session. You can't roll it again. So as you go through, the gray thing is whatever you have on it right now, whereas the orange things are all things you already have. So I know for sure, guaranteed, that the next roll this thing is going to get is Hagen, the Forsaken Exiled. And there it is. So as long as you don't scroll away from this, you are going to have that pity system in place. And yeah, that's pretty nice to have when you're crafting stuff. Hopefully this video helped you out. Let me know what kind of stuff you want to see from me for the game. Pretty, fun, having a good time right now. We hit level 100, I think, in about 34 hours playtime. Pretty much found all of the Reapers for the Huntress at this point. And really for like 15 bucks, I think this has been a pretty darn good deal. We still have quite a bit of stuff to go. There's a whole new endgame system to do with the Netherworld, which is probably going to be something we talk about in the next video here. Yeah, pretty hyped. Hope you guys have a good one. Come by the stream. We're probably live right now. And we'll see you again soon.